Donald Trump brought in new blood to lead his campaign. He's in a hole, but the polls have leveled off, and Trump is gearing up for a comeback.
I actually think I'm doing good.
We'll drill into the polls, explain why a lot of voters don't trust him, and how the pollsters may change what they do.
The issue is money. It's expensive to conduct a gold standard poll.
Plus, Scott Smith is back for our oddball quiz show. We'll try to stump him, and you can play along. This is Money, Power, and Politics. Yes, Donald Trump expanded his campaign team, but he's also doing something else to try to recover from a rough couple of weeks. And that brings us to our first big point of the night. Trump is trying to bounce back once again by channeling Richard Nixon.
Just that, it's law and order.
That was the Nixon playbook from 1968.
And we're going to enforce the law, and Americans should remember that if we're going to have law and order.
And on that note, point number 2, Trump is finally launching TV ads that could draw even more from the Nixon playbook.
I haven't spent 10 cents. We're going to actually start doing ads over the next few days.
And when you see those ads, look for those same themes of law and order that Nixon drove home in his ads back in 1968.
We owe it to the decent and law-abiding citizens of America to take the offensive against the criminal forces that threaten their peace and their security, and to rebuild respect for law across this country.
Nixon popularized the phrase silent majority. Trump says he's reaching out to the forgotten men and women. And remember, Nixon rode those same themes to victory in 1968. First, watch this clip from Donald Trump.
Those peddling the narrative of cops as a racist force in our society, a narrative supported with a nod by my opponent, shared directly in the responsibility for the unrest in Milwaukee and many other places within our country.
And remember, we've heard this kind of tit for tat once before. Compare what Trump just said to what Nixon said.
And to those who say that law and order is the code word for racism, our goal is justice. Justice for every American.
So when you hear Trump hammer home the theme of law and order,
We have to obey the laws or we don't have a country.
remember how Nixon used the same strategy to win the White House nearly 50 years ago.
As we look at America, we see cities enveloped in smoke and flame. We hear sirens in the night. We see Americans hating each other, fighting each other, killing each other at home.
Of course, point number 3, this is not 1968. Trump has an uphill battle for sure, and Trump's series of off-the-cuff controversies and unforced errors have surely cost him. He's hoping the new leaders he brought into his campaign will help him catch up. And in the second half of our show, we'll take a deep dive into the polls, show you how they arrive at their numbers and their results, how the pollsters are changing their methods along the way, in changing times, and how we could see even more changes around the corner. But first, it's Wednesday night, which brings us to our interactive quiz show, an oddball segment with Scott Smith.
In sports, Scott Smith makes us call the plays. But in politics, we put him to the test. Time now for Call It with Scott Smith.
And we're back now with Scott Smith, our sports director here. Boy, this is round 3. You had an awesome round 1. You stumbled a little in round 2. You're still on the path, though.
Here we go.
You're
Yeah, it's
do
third
all right.
time's a charm, right?
All right, we're going to start with Newt Gingrich.
Okay.
Take a look.
We're really puzzled here at Gingrich Productions.
He's really puzzled at Gingrich Productions. What has him puzzled? He's holding a phone.
Yeah.
It's A, does not know what to call a smartphone. B, he's never tried Snapchat. C, does not know what bay means. D, what is a tweet?
Man, I could see actually all of those being employed here.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna go with he does not know what to call his smartphone.
All right. Yeah, let's see.
Can I phone a friend? I don't like that reaction.
Well,
Immediate
I could be
buyer's
bluffing
remorse.
you. All right.
Okay.
Let's take a look.
We've spent weeks trying to figure out, what do you call this? Now, I know you probably think it's a cell phone. And if I say to audiences, how many of you have a cell phone that takes a picture, 97% of the hands go up. But think about it. If it's taking pictures, it's not a cell phone.
All right, so you got that one. Now,
we're out of the
second round
gates.
of the yeah, that's right. Good
Out of the
start
gates
here.
strong. Good.
So then what does he call it? A, horseless cell phone. B, handheld computer. C, smoke signal delivery device. Or D, virtual TV.
Oh. Let's go handheld computer.
Handheld computer.
Yeah.
All right, this is for 2 in a row. Let's see if he gets it.
I've been calling it a handheld computer.
All right, how about that? This is, boy, my goodness, you're on fire today. All right, I think you're going to run the table. I really do. Let's take a look at the next one. This would be Hillary Clinton. Okay. Look.
I wish I could be here more, but I really think Bill has everything under control.
All right, what happens next? A, limo party with Oprah.
Yes.
B, somehow she dances the Macarena in there. C, she leaves Bill Clinton behind with a sack lunch. D, high fives Tipper Gore and says, girls' night out.
Ooh. Well, I know that I know she's fond of her dance moves. We've seen that a little bit, so I'm kind of leaning B in the Macarena.
Yeah.
But I like the Tipper Gore thing. Yeah. Girls' night out. Let's go girls' night out. Let's go D.
D. All right, let's take a look. See if that played out that way.
I really think Bill has everything under control.
Oh, you had a streak. Oh, but you can't win them all. You can't run the table. But I think you've got a good shot at redemption on this next one. This is Buckingham Palace. This is President Obama with the Queen. Take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand with me and raise your glasses as I propose a toast. To Her Majesty, the Queen.
Something happens.
What could possibly
A,
go
he
wrong?
drops his glass and spills his drink on his pants.
Right.
B, drops his glass, then trips picking up the glass. C, he keeps talking through the anthem while the Queen just ignores him. D, the Queen interrupts and says, okay, enough about me.
I'm going to go C. I'm going to go C.
All right,
yeah.
let's give it a look.
Ignores him.
Take a look.
To the Queen.
Awkward. Awkward. Okay, but that was good for you.
Just a touch. Good.
Look at you. That's a nice
What's
recovery
awkward
there.
for the president is actually good for me, so this is good.
We're going to pivot to sports. Well, sports and politics.
Yes,
Football
finally.
here. Mike McFadden, Coach McFadden in this ad, running for a Minnesota Senate. Take a look.
Now Coach McFadden's the one running. He says Washington's fumbling our future. Spending has to be stopped. And Obamacare needs to be sacked.
Good job.
Coach McFadden is tough.
Coach McFadden is tough. Now, Coach McFadden turns around after this football practice and says, now let's hit a home run.
Oh, please tell me he doesn't.
Says, play it safe, kids, and win it life. Says, don't worry about concussions, kids. Football is for tough guys. Or says, let's go out there and hit somebody, then appears to get hit in the groin.
Oh. The concussions, I don't think he touches that.
Yeah.
He can't say home run.
Yeah.
That can't happen.
Yeah.
Play it safe, win it live, or D. Let's go groin shot.
Groin
like
shot.
Funniest
All
videos.
right. Tell the kids to hit somebody, and it gets nailed. Let's see.
Coach McFadden is tough.
Now let's get out there and hit somebody.
Really tough.
Yes.
I'm Mike McFadden, and I approve this message.
He caught some flack for that until he really got hit in the stomach. Yeah, like that really bad. But this was a very good round for you. You recovered nicely, and we're going to pick it up with round 4 next week.
Feel even better going out. Yes.
Well played. We'll see you again. Thank you.
Coming up, we'll explain the science of polling, how and why they can miss the mark, what's changing in the polling business, and how it can impact the race.
Well, some polls show Trump way down in the polls. For example, he's down 9 points in the NBC poll, but others like the LA Times survey show that he's nearly tied. So how can there be that kind of swing from poll to poll here? And what are the number crunchers doing to make their polls more reliable? Well, Joe Toohey will now explain the science of polling.
In 2016, political candidates live and die by the latest poll numbers. If you're ahead, they're your greatest ally.
Now I'm leading in every single poll.
If you're behind, they're constantly wrong.
Poll after poll says Sanders can't win. On election day, we do win.
Good poll numbers can fuel media coverage and fundraising, turning candidates into frontrunners. Bad poll numbers can do just the opposite. But like the campaigns that bad poll numbers tend to throw into turmoil, some say political polling itself is at a crossroads.
A scientific poll traditionally has meant that basically everyone in the population has had a chance of being sampled for the survey. And historically, this was very possible by sampling and dialing telephone numbers.
It used to be pollsters could use automatic dialers to quickly connect with people on their home phone. But the rise of cell phones, coupled with a 1991 law that made it illegal to use automatic dialers to call people on them, have made polling as we've known it much tougher to do.
They have to be hand-dialed by interviewers, and it's gotten maybe 3 or 4 times as expensive as it used to be just 2 elections ago.
Cell phones also make it much harder to reach certain parts of the population, potentially ruining what pollsters call the probability sample. And while many see all this amounting to a death warrant for traditional telephone polling, Doug Schwartz disagrees.
You know, polls up to this point using telephones have been very accurate, and we see no reason to stop doing it.
He's the director of the Quinnipiac poll, one of the most well-known and respected traditional polling institutions in the country.
If we weren't calling people on their cell phones, we would have a huge problem. We would be underrepresenting, you know, young people, underrepresenting Hispanics. It would be, our polls would be so skewed, I would not trust them. But we're not, we're calling cell phones.
On a typical night, all 150 terminals here at Quinnipiac's polling center are filled. It gives you an idea of the kind of manpower that's required to conduct what they say is the gold standard of polls.
The issue is money. And yes, it's expensive to conduct a gold standard poll.
And those climbing costs have given us a glimpse into what the future of election polling will look like.
The future of polling is going to go to the internet. And almost all polling will be done on the internet 4 years from now.
But like many new technologies, online polling still has a way to go.
The problem with doing internet polling right now is twofold. First is not everybody's online. And second is that there's no good way yet to do a probability sample where everybody has a known chance of being included in the sample of web-based users yet. And so there's a lot of non-probability samples being done this election, and those have very little basis in science.
Companies like SurveyMonkey and YouGov, as well as big-name polling institutions like Pew Research Center, all working on the secret sauce to have online polls meet scientific muster. In some cases, this can mean using the tried-and-true dial-up method to bring people over to the new online polling world.
We talked to people on the phone, and then we migrated them online to do monthly surveys. So that's kind of a nice hybrid where you're getting the online measurement in a timely manner, but we know from the way that we recruited those people that is nationally representative.
And once online polling finally hits its stride, some experts say there's really no limit to the kind of information it can provide.
Instead of being an episodic thing like it is now, a poll comes out, it will just be there as a data stream. And we'll probably get there by 2020, certainly by 2024. 2024, I don't even know what to tell you about polls. We may have other ways to measure public opinion than calling people up and asking them.
And until that day, it's worth remembering that just because someone is ahead in the polls at any one point, it doesn't guarantee a win in November. Just ask President Mitt Romney, President John McCain, President John Kerry, and, oh wait.
Our last Fox 13 poll showed Hillary Clinton leading Trump by just 1 point here in the state of Florida last week. Our pollster Matt Towery will join us with new numbers later this week. He and his son Matthew, by the way, have been recognized, their work rewarded, among the most reliable in the nation with an accuracy rating of 91%. So please check out our YouTube channel for a closer look at our numbers and what they mean. On YouTube, search for Craig Patrick's Money, Power, and Politics. Click subscribe at the top of the page. You'll also find our investigations of money and politics, as well as our humor and satire segments, extended interviews, and prior shows you may have missed.
Coming up, we'll bring in Evan to map out the 3 things Donald Trump can do to bounce back and change the map by Labor Day.
Okay, here we are at Evan's Corner. Evan, thank you for joining us. So we're breaking down the 3 things Donald Trump needs to do to bounce back. You be the professor, call it like it is. I'll play devil's advocate.
Well, I think one of the things he's got to do is stay on message. He can't afford another week or even another day of a battle with the Khan family, of the Second Amendment comments.
But since he's done that, you can't unring the bell. So is the damage already done?
You can't unring the bell, but one of the ways that Trump has been gauged is whether he's able to kind of adapt to the new political environment that he's now in. He's always been a businessman. He's been a reality talk show host. I think his learning curve, there's a little bit more generosity in what people are willing to give him and how well he plays the political game. So I think if he shows that he's doing better at playing it, it's almost like the game of expectations. If you beat the expectations, you're perceived as doing better than you even were before.
And if he stays on message, it can then put Hillary Clinton on defense for the first time in weeks.
Right. I mean, absolutely. When's the last time Hillary Clinton's had to answer for the email scandal or answer for the way the Clinton Foundation does business? She may have to answer for it, and she may answer for it on her own, either in a rally or in a press conference, but it doesn't seem to stay in the news for very long, and Donald Trump needs that to happen.
What else does he have to do?
Well, I think another thing he's got to do is do better in some of the swing states amongst minority voters. You're seeing polls there where he's polling in the single digits amongst African American voters in Pennsylvania, single digits amongst African American voters in Ohio. Those have very large cities, very large urban centers. He's going to have to do well in places in Ohio like Shaker Heights, in Cleveland, and certainly he's going to have to find a way to do better amongst African Americans in the big cities of Pennsylvania.
Well, as I recall, Mitt Romney got wiped out in Philadelphia. John McCain got wiped out in Philadelphia. It's fool's gold for Republicans in large part because they tend to get wiped out in Philadelphia. How can Trump reverse that?
Well, I think one of the things that he's got to do is, if he doesn't change his policies, he's got to change where he's speaking about them. He's got to make an active effort to go out and speak in African American communities, in Hispanic communities. That's going to be another thing. He's got to do well amongst Hispanics in Florida. Miami-Dade County has the most number of Republicans in the state. He simply has to do better than the poll numbers we're seeing of 14 and 15% amongst Hispanics there.
What's the third big thing?
The third big thing he's got to do is build a ground game. Florida, Pennsylvania, ads are going to be crucial, TV ads, but he's also got to have a get out the vote effort. He's got to have the volunteers. He's got to have people willing to go out and work for him. Big rallies are great in generating enthusiasm and generating some media coverage, but the ground game is going to be the way you take
Wait a minute, though, but there are only so many days. What is it, 83 days until the election? The Trump camp has one office in Florida, in Sarasota. How in the world can you build a ground game in the ultra battleground state of 19 million people with only 83 days yet to go?
Well, one of the things that we're hearing is they are going to attempt to open several offices, perhaps several dozen offices over the next couple of weeks in the state of Florida. It is a big question. He is starting from way behind. The Clinton ground game in Florida is trying to duplicate the effort that Barack Obama made. He won Florida by 1 point. The demographics are even further against Donald Trump. There are fewer white voters, more Hispanic voters in the state of Florida. That's not going to help him, but he's going to have to build a ground game in places like Pasco County, in the I-4 corridor, up in Orange County. He's going to have to find a way to get those voters to the polls from rural areas, from ex-urban areas. Those are the kinds of places that Republicans have to do well in.
Evan, thanks for staying up with us.
Pleasure.
Coming up, Trump has a new campaign manager and CEO, and we'll show you what that means and how it could change the race.
So Donald Trump has a new campaign manager in Kellyanne Conway and a new CEO in Stephen Bannon. Don't look for big changes, though, from the campaign. Bannon, in particular, has a reputation for running against the Republican establishment, as does Donald Trump. I don't think there will be a significant change in messaging. In fact, the campaign is saying this is not a shakeup at all. Rather, it is an expansion because nobody has been fired. It will all depend, though, on how well they mix and mesh. That's our show. We will see you again. Money, Power, and Politics, same place, same time tomorrow night. Take care.